back to another session of Gallant Current Affairs and News Analysis. First, we will be dealing with yesterday's practice question. So, how does the implementation of the minimum support price rescue farmers from the challenges of earning low income, and what role does it play in supporting their livelihoods? So, you can actually basically write an introduction about MSP, what is minimum support price, or you can actually tell about how MSP is supporting farmers. Now, the potential of MSP, price stability, like provides stability to farmers by ensuring a minimum price for their agricultural produce. They have a stable income security, which means that they will get a fixed income despite if there is a crop failure also. If they are not producing up to the capacity also, they will get a fixed and minimum price. And food security, it will ensure the food security that the crops which is needed like rice and wheat, they are actually grown apart from other cash crops also. Social and rural development, by giving MSME supports, the livelihoods of the rural communities, that could lead to standard reduce poverty and enhance the social economic development. So, MSP plays a very huge role. It helps in the societal and rural development, reduces the poverty rates, gives a fixed income to the farmers, also ensures that there is food security, the needed crops like the rice, wheat, maize, which are needed for a country like India is grown. It kind of incentivizes producers, gives income security to the farmers and such. That is what potential of MSP is. Now, we need to look into some of the challenges. The challenges like implementation, and there is procurement issue. We have price distortion and ineffectiveness, limited coverage. MSP often covers only just 22 of crops. Yesterday we talked about fair and remunerative price just for one crop, that is sugarcane, because of which there is a monopoly in the sugarcane sector alone. So, there is a limited coverage, not all important crops like the millets is not included into this. Now, administrative challenges of eligible farmers, verification of the produce, there are a lot of red tapeism and bureaucracy hurdles over it. Also, budgetary implications, because a very less percentage of GDP is covered for this MSP as such. So, these are some of the challenges. And including this, when you write what is the potential and the challenges, if you are ever writing a challenges, you have to point a way forward. Now, strengthening infrastructure, post-harvest mechanism, warehouse, we need to produce warehouse, cold chain kind of infrastructures where the food can be stored, so the perishable foods does not go to wastage. And diversification of crop coverage, as I have told you, we need to increase the number of crops that comes under this MSP or fair and remunerative price ambit. Also, it requires of market reforms. Then you can conclude all of this and write a suitable conclusion. I know I am going a little bit speed in this area, but I have given everything in detail in this solution. So, please go through it when I publish the PDF. Now, moving on to today's mains, we have two very important topics about the India's mining policy and about superconductors. Then we have subsidiary policies like SC2, that is appoint all-woman panel to oversee relief in Manipur. Then we have a mediation bill, Malabar Exercise and ECOWAS related to a Niger coup happening in Africa. First, we need to talk about Indian mining policy shift. In this, you need to know 4 to 5 key things. What are the Indian acts related to mining? What is India's stand in imports and exports in the case of mining? Global production in the case of critical elements. What are the critical elements, rare earth materials and deep-seated minerals? So, there is 3 categories of elements which we need to go through. And what has to be the policy, or what kind of reforms that India have to take in the case of our mining sector? Now, this is like a former act about the background about the mining and minerals, the Department and Development and Regulation Act. This was first given, the act was given in 1957. Now, this 1957 Act wholly excludes the private sector participation in the kinds of mines and development, and it's completely there is a monopoly of the Indian government in the case of mines and minerals. Now, this act was amended in 2015 and some new criteria was added to it. Now, introduce an auction based of mineral concession, in which the highest bidder is given this auction is given to the highest bidder who pays for it. Then there is also create of District Mineral Foundation and National Mineral Exploration Trust. These are 2 other bodies which is created along with the 2015 Amendment Act. More than this, what we need to know is about what is 2023 Amendment Bill talking about. Now, also this was amended further in 2016, 20, 21. The majority what we need to know is 2023 bill. So, this is subsidiary information, you need not remember it much. Now, why is there a requirement of reforms in this kind of bill? Because in India we need critical elements, like we are trying to develop technological technological initiatives. We want to achieve net zero carbon by 2070, reduce the carbon emission to zero by 2070. So to ensure that the energy sector is stable, we need some kind of critical element, and we India depend a lot on imports, and we are producing less number of minerals and such. So also there is a problem of supply chain vulnerability, because due to COVID and Russia-Ukraine pandemic and all, Russia-Ukraine war and pandemics, there is a supply chain constraint as well. So to meet all this, there is a need and initiative to reform the mining sector, which is currently in India. Now, as I have told you, there are three types of the minerals: strategically critical elements, rare earth elements, and deep-seated elements. All the three elements are three components. Now, strategically critical means it is very important for our sectors like semiconductor, aerospace, telecommunication, defense and such. These elements are very critical to compound in their machines and such, and equipments to develop. Now, these are kinds of lithium. It's also called as white gold. There is lithium circle in the case of lithium triangle in the case of South America, where three big countries produce the lithium reserves, and then cobalt and graphite are some other strategically critical elements. Now we have rare earth elements. These are 17 elements, include 15 lanthanide and scandium and yttrium. These are a set of 17 rare earth metals. This is called rare because they occur in very low concentration and is very difficult to extract from their oxide form. That is why it's called rare earth elements. Now we have deep-seated elements, which include gold, silver, copper, zinc, lead, platinum, these diamonds. These are all deep-seated elements. Now the problem with this is that it is very hard to explore and it's expensive to explore, and the mines are compared to sufficient bulk materials. Now the bulk materials like iron ore and coal is very easy to extract, but these elements like gold, silver, these are not very easy to extract. So these are the three categories of elements which India actually needs. Now what is the state of India? Why is India depending a lot on imports? As I have told you, India has a lot of problems. We have supply problem because we depend a lot on our imports, and there is supply chain vulnerabilities. India actually imports 100% from other countries like China, Russia, Australia, where these strategic elements, where the rare earth elements or the deep-seated elements occur the most. So India has 100% import from these countries. Now if you are to look at the stance of how much India exports, you need to know this fact of data. We imported in the last financial year alone, India imported close to 12 lakh tons of copper, which is worth 27,000 crores. Is it because India doesn't have copper reserves? If it's that, then okay, we have to depend upon other countries. But the problem of India is that we don't explore much. We don't know the potential of our resources, because of which we are depending more on imports like this. And 12 lakh tons worth 27 crores. These much is spent by India in imports of just one element, copper alone. Now, if you are looking at it, China dominates almost all the sectors. If it's the case of cobalt, China dominates it. 70% of the world cobalt which is mined, and it is under the control of China. China is not present in China, but this cobalt reserve is actually present in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But China constructs its minerals, so they conduct the strategic partnership, they control all these mineral resources. So because of which China has about 70% of the world cobalt under their control. If you are talking about RRE, that is the rare earth reserve, you can see that China controls about 38% of the total rare earth elements. Now if you are moving second place, Vietnam, we have about 19% controlled by Vietnam. Now we have Brazil controlling about 18%, then Russia about 10%. So this is how the rare earth elements is distributed. The other countries like India only owns about close to 6%. Even then we are not exploiting it, but still we are not exploring it maximum out of it. Greenland, Tanzania, South Africa, they also have reserves, but it's very less. China, Russia, Vietnam and Brazil dominate the rare earth mineral market. As this I have given you in the form. Then not only India is dependent on this rare earth metal from China and Russia and all, the other countries like United States, European, they want to move away from this dependency on China, because there is a lot of Chinese aggression go on and there is a Cold War like mentality happening there. So these countries wants to move away from China and have a secure supply chain reliance as well. Now, why is the private sector vital for this critical mineral exploration? Now you see, In India, we have about we have only explored about 10% of our landmass. India came from the Gondwana landmass. Similarly, such as African countries and other West African countries. Now they have the resources. India also came from the same landmass as Gondwana landmass. So these much resources should be present in India. But the problem with India is we covered less than 10% of our landmass, and out of this too we only use or produce 2% of it. And even the budget allocation is less than 1% compared to the other countries' global mineral exploration budget. That is the state of India in the case of mineral export. We explored less than 10% of the land, we actually produce less than 2%, and our budget is very less than 1%. Now, the United Nations Framework for Classification of Resources have told about 4 stages of how to conduct a mineral exploration. Now, there are 4 stages. The G4, the primary stage is reconnaissance, which mainly deals about preliminary survey of that area, if that area has any kind of mineral resources or not. Then prospecting, it's about exploration and locating of the mineral resources particularly present in that area. Then go for a general exploration, then a detailed explanation. The problem with India is that the private companies are already given the first stage and the second stage. In the first stage, there is lot of bureaucracy, hurdle, red tape, and because of which they don't get the sanction that is required. While coming to the second stage, exploration and locating, they could use aerial surveys, they could use a satellites or something, they could use geospatial, but the problem is that they are not given any drilling or blasting, that kinds of method or access is not given by the government. Also, India's mining policy has kept a greenfield exploration of minerals out of the purview of private sector, which means a greenfield, as you know, from the scratch. So if any mineral exploration there is from the scratch, it can be wholly handled by the government. After the exploration of the government, only that will be given to the private, which means that as a clearly already explored mining sector, mining compound by the government will only be given to the private sector. So these are some of the problems that India faces. We haven't actually located or explored much of our resources. Our budget is very less, and also the private sector is already given the first and second stage to explore, and then the mining policy will there is no greenfield exploration given to the private sectors. Now, we need to know also the exploration requires techniques like, as I have told you, there needs aerial survey, geological mapping and such. These are all very costly and very cost effective just to take from the government alone. The government, like, they could explore the iron ore or coal or such, but coming to this critical elements or rare earth metal, the government is actually not able to take that much of finance, or they don't have that kind of technology to explore these critical elements. They can do with the bulk elements like the coal and iron ore, but they can't do this critical element. That is why there is a need for investment from the private sector. Also, we need to know the global model. In Australia and other countries as such, they have junior explorers. They put on their finance, they take the risk and everything, and they find where this exploration of potential mines are. Then they actually, once discovered, these private companies sell these to the bigger mines to earn profit. So this kind of some of the model that takes place in the global sphere. Now, what are the amendments made from this 2023 bill? A lot of amendments have been actually made. Now, in the bill, there was actually the private companies was not allowed to handle any minerals which is named in the term of atomic minerals. That comes completely in the purview of our government sector. But they changed naming from atomic mineral to strategic mineral, and they put 6 critical minerals as strategic, and they gave private sector to mine these minerals. These include the lithium, beryllium, niobium. These such are 6 strategic minerals which are critical minerals that has been allowed for the private mining. Also, the center have powers to auction mining. So these are some of the new developments that has been made. The exploration license is actually given by the state government. It is for a 5 years period, but they have relaxed it further and can be extended by 2 years. It is done through competitive bidding. This is very important. It is done through competitive bidding, and this exploration license is given out by the state government for a time of 5 years. It can be extended by 2 years. Also, the central government prescribes the details of the manner of the auction and terms and conditions to be followed while they are doing the auction. The bill also actually allows under a single exploration license up to 1000 square kilometers. Now in the earlier stage only 25 square kilometer was given for, in a single time the only 25 square kilometer was given out for exploration, but this act has increased it to about 1000 square kilometers were given to out for a single exploration license. And also after the first 3 years, this licensee can retain 25% of the original authorized area. If the resources are proven after the exploration, the conducting first stage, second stage, they prove that there is some kind of minerals out there, the state government must conduct an auction, mining lease within the 6 months. So this is some of the few or important which we need to know in this new bill. The things are, how many critical minerals? 6 minerals. If you know the name, you can write it. Then also the exploration license for 5 years granted by the state government, it will be done through competitive bidding. All the details and manners of the auction will be prescribed by the central government. Also the single exploration license for 1000 square kilometer, before it was 25 square kilometer. So these are some of the important things which you need to know from the bill. So that is it on our mining, and with this the government is pushing forward to increase our mining sectors, increasing our produce and export so that we can depend less on the imports. Now moving on to the next, there has been a lot of news in yesterday's news. In today's there are 3 articles about superconductors alone. We need not go into the physical or chemical compounds or such in that to scientific facts. We need to know particularly what is it, what is happening. That's it we need to know from a UPSC point of view. Now superconductors refers to a state when a material conduct electricity without any resistance. Now the superconductor doesn't work in the room temperature or normal temperature. They have to go below the low temperature, they work only in the low temperature, because of which till now the scientist has been going on through it for decades, but still we can't have a breakthrough in it, because only if the superconductors can be used in the room temperature, then only we can use in our device and machines and such. If it's just can be used in low temperature or in a very cold or cold temperature, we can't use it for the commercial purpose or other purpose. As I told you, currently superconductor can only be achieved at temperature far below 0. In the process, they are too expensive for wider applications. Now there are a lot of applications for superconductor. If you are going through the science field, if you are going through medicine, transportation, industry, energy, there is a lot of scope for the superconductors. Now the thing is that it makes our machines more efficient, and we can radically transform the materials, and we can transform the entire market system out of it. And there is also no power loss in the case of a superconductor, and the transmission can solve the global energy crisis and problems, which means that we could achieve energy efficiency. So that much power the superconductor has. There are a lot of areas or applications of the superconductors I have mentioned here, in cables, in transformers, in motors, in generators, in MRI, in accelerator. These are so many, there are a lot more. Even we can use in our semiconductors, we can use in our high speed rails, etc. So the superconductor materials have a lot of potential. Now recently news is that South Korea scientist has discovered LK99, which is a superconductor that operates in room temperature. Now you see, if this news is true, it is a breakthrough of the century, because we have potentially solved a lot of problems that has been with us now. With this room temperature, we could actually develop many more. The application of this tech is immense. So because of which this will be a breakthrough, and this breakthrough in our scientific field technology. Now, but it is also made by copper substituted lead apatite. That is what this LK99 is made of. In a prelims point of view, you need to know what is LK99, and you should also know what the copper substituted lead apatite is. Like, what is the LK99 made of? Now, if this news is true, it's a breakthrough, as I have already told you. The scientists are actually rushing to publish their results, and there is no proper validation happening on this result. So the problem now is that is this research or the paper true? That is what the author is actually talking about, because there is no proper validation made on this room temperature superconductor. All the scientists are just busy on rushing to publish their result. So we will know more about this in the future, if this is true or not, because if it's true, there is a lot of potential out there for this field. Now, if we have a very smaller topic, as I have told you, Manipur issue, what's happening in Manipur, I have taken it in detail in one of my previous classes. So in this, the Supreme Court has come into the arena again, because the government has failed to maintain what the issue has been going on in Manipur. So the Supreme Court took from its own hand to create a body which consists upon 3 former women High Court judges to resolve the issues of what going on, to take a proper legislations happening there. And also the Supreme Court has ordered DGP of 6 states to give out 6 DIG ranked officers so they can take in charge of what's happening in Manipur. They are putting up resources and officers from out of the state so they can actually look into the issues of what is happening in Manipur. Also to enforce multiple layer of monitoring to stabilize the issues in Manipur. So this is one of the new things. The major thing which we need to know is that what is the Manipur issue, how is that the government going to deal with it. Now this was a very small topic. Now moving on to our next topic, we have the mediation bill. This has been recently passed. Now Rajya Sabha has passed a mediation bill which mandates the individual to attempt to settle the civil or commercial dispute through mediation before approaching the court or trial. We know that there has been a lot of pending cases in the judiciary. So to resolve that, they have actually put out a mediation, other path through which the problems can be resolved. It's more like alternate dispute resolution mechanisms. So without going to a proper court, you can settle all the civil issues, commercial dispute through mediation of a third neutral party. Now the parties can also withdraw from the mediation after 2 sessions. There is no compulsory that if you started, you have to go into that and resolve only. If you, after 2 sessions, if also your problem is not resolved, then you can withdraw. Also the mediation process must be completed within 180 days and is extendable by another 180 days by mutual consent. This bill also talk about establishing a Mediation Council of India, which is responsible for registering mediators and recognizing mediating service providers and institutes. Now also the mediation, as I have told you, is an alternate dispute resolution mechanism by which a neutral third party known as a mediator helps the parties resolve the dispute and come into a mutual agreement. It's very cost effective. There is no time lag, because if you are getting a case in Supreme Court, there is a lot of time lag, there is a lot of money and efficiency put for it. But with this mechanism, it is less adversarial method and it's cost effective and efficient. The significance is that the bill aims to reduce the backlog of cases in the court. Now presently there are about 5 crore of cases pending in the court. If we need to reduce that, we can't add up to more cases in the Supreme Court. The bill also provides a legal framework for mediation and reflects the government's whole of government approach for promoting alternate dispute resolution mechanisms. Also the issue, no provision for enforcing certain international mediation settlements, and the lack of clarity of the qualification of the mediators. Because we mediators, we don't know if they are judges or something who has a capability to solve the issues. So that is one issue. And no provisions for enforcing certain internationally mediated settlements. Like in court and all, we can refer to previous cases and such, but no such thing will happen here. So if in this case, if you get a case about judiciary and all, how the pending of cases can be solved in the judiciary, in a conclusion of way forward, you can mention this mediation bill and how this would actually help the judiciary. The thing which we need to know is that way forward, we can also address the issues that is happening in this mediation bill, that we need to know the qualifications or the benchmark qualifications of the judges, or who is going to be the neutral third party, and also for enforcing certain international mediations also. Now that is all about this mediation bill. We have Malabar exercise. Currently the 31st edition of Malabar exercise is going to be held in Australia from August 11 to August 21. Now Australia, as I have told you, will host the Malabar exercise. This Malabar exercise conducted by the Quad partners. Presently India, Japan, US and Australia. This Malabar exercise was first started in 1992 between India and USA alone. Now 1992, it is after the Cold War period, and to reconcile between India and USA, they started this multilateral war gaming naval exercise. This was initially between India and USA. It was just a naval war game. This started after the Cold War era to reconcile the both countries and all. Then Japan and Australia actually first participated in 2007. Then subsequent there have been participation. Japan became a permanent member of this Malabar exercise in 2015. Last year, for the first time, all the 4 partners of the Quad came together to conduct this exercise, and now for the first time Malabar exercise is going to happen in Australia. You need to know some background of Malabar exercise, which all parties are there and where it's going to be conducted. These are 3 things which you need to know in this article alone. Now I have a practice question. Due to the improper indiscriminate disposal of old and used computers on their part, which of the following are released into the environment as an e-waste? Now this was a question in 2013. Now if you are seeing all this component, you will come up to plutonium. Now plutonium is not usually used in a computer part. Plutonium is a material which is used in our nuclear reactor. So if you are eliminating 7 itself, you will get the answer as 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. This heptachlor is actually a termite control control stuff. There is no particular interest of this with computer. So the answer is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 alone. Now I have practice question and mains for you. Please work it out and we will be discussing the first thing in tomorrow's class. Thank you and have a nice day. You will get this PPT in our Telegram channel, Gallant IAS. Thank you and have a nice day.